By the way, so Ouida and I, we met in person in Bath. And yeah, and so Ouida will tell us more. And in fact, in London, I met another of our authors, publishing mastery authors. Her name is Jas. She's from Singapore. And she'd come to London for both work and for pleasure. Apparently, she's on the board of directors of ICF International. So that's why she travels a lot. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple short introduction for each of us. So we start to get to know one another. A minute and a half, 2 minutes, talk about, say something about you and also the book or books you're writing. Then I'll explain the reason why we're doing this call, what we're looking to achieve. It's about establishing regular group calls, and I'd like us to bounce ideas as to the time, the days, the best times and days we could do that, so keep it on regularly. We'll discuss about core topics, how are we going to handle them, what I suggest us to do, and I'll share a few experiences of the groups we're already doing, group calls we're already doing with different authors, different types. It's all about time zones and a structure. Then we're going to deal with questions, answers, questions and answers. Anything we want to discuss is how to make this worthwhile, and hopefully we can plan the next call, and yeah, then we book it. And after that we'll carry on one at a time. So that's the. So let's get started. Actually, it's 5 past. So let's have an introduction. Who wants to start first? Ouida, off you go. Give it a go, and then when you finish, just pass it to someone else. Say so. Yeah, go for it.
Of course, I didn't want to go first, but here I am.
There you go.
So I put in my name where I live now and where I'm from.
Okay.
So that if anyone is wondering. I mean, when people ask me how I'm doing, I always say, how much time do you have? So I'll try to keep it short. In terms of my writing, I love to write poetry. I have a nice body of work in poetry. I am about, I would say 80% through my autobiography. And I just threw a new wrinkle in the mix with Paulin, and I said, I think I want to publish my dissertation. It's about othering in corporate America. Well, my dissertation was on the intersectionality of race and gender in corporate America, the lack of psychological safety, and how it affects retention. But I'm changing the title so it's not so much of a mouthful. Yeah. So I'll put my URLs in the chat for people who want to know more about me. But I'm happy to be here, and I think the world of Paulin. And I can't wait to meet everyone else.
Most welcome, man. Welcome. Well, thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you for joining us. But what is worth, we got to see some fantastic performance, opera, in Bath by the cathedral. It was amazing. So thank you. Great. And yeah, Ife is joining us. Who would you want to pass it next?
I'm gonna pass it to Yan Min.
Okay, thank you very much. So hi everybody, I'm Yan Min. I'm originally from Taiwan. I've been living in the UK since 2007. I came to UK to study, and I am writing the book. And the main reason why I write the book is to bring. Can you hear me still? I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, great. To bring inspiration to others and to give me the opportunities to gain a better understanding of my thoughts and inner voice. I think it's I'm very grateful to Paul for giving me the opportunities, because this is not what I expected when I am having a very difficult time in life at the moment, but it's one of those do you say silver lining? Is that right? Do you say silver lining, Paul?
Yes,
Yeah.
silver lining. Yes, it is.
Yeah. And so I think that the book I'm writing is basically based on my life experience, stories, and what kind of ideas I extract from those experiences, and then hopefully people would get some kind of comfort or insights. And so yeah, but I'm quite happy to get to know everybody through different meetings and exchange ideas.
Yeah, it's a blend of mixture. It's a mixture of fiction and fiction, actually. Put your story, whatever you're writing. So yeah, keep going. Yeah, absolutely. Who do you want to introduce next? Who do you want to?
Can I pass to Joseph?
There you go. Off you go, Joseph.
Okay.
Hello everyone. So my name is Joseph. I kind of like what Chris was talking about when he said, when people ask her how she is, she says, how much time do you have? And that's kind of a typical thing that happens because you don't say I'm fine when you're not really fine. And that's kind of what the book I'm writing focuses on, because it's coming from my life experiences as well as drawn from things I've gone through. And so it's essentially, the whole sentence is, I'm not fine, and this is how I went through it. So my hope is that anyone who picks up the book who probably will be going through a similar experience, or be going through a similar thing, is able to learn from it, gain some kind of hope and inspiration from it, to say, okay, well, if he went through it and he got out of it, then I'm going to be just fine. So that's where my story is. I think I'll quickly pass it to David Wong.
Thank you very much, Joseph. I'm David Elston. I'm actually a lawyer, and I'm sort of heading towards the end of my career as a lawyer. And a couple of years ago, I thought I'd often had this idea of writing a book, and I'd worked out a story for it. And then someone who was giving me a bit of careers advice said, I knew exactly what she was doing. She said to me, I have to say this to you, David, I don't think you'll ever get around to writing your book. And then she put me in touch with Paul. And of course, what she did was she kicked me up the backside into actually doing something about writing the book. And I had two different stories in my mind. One I'd really sort of got quite clear, and the other I hadn't really got very clear. And after a chat with Paul, I began to tried to put down the first outline of the story, and I just couldn't get anything onto paper. And so I tried the other one, the one my second sort of idea, and I'm developing that. It's a novel, and it's set in the 1960s in the UK, and it's actually about the death penalty, which is a bit of a grim subject, but there was a reason why I chose that, because I'd spoken to someone ages ago who had to witness it. And so I've been developing that with Paul, and I've really enjoyed it. And Paul and I, probably like many of you, we've found ourselves discussing other things like pictures, like music, and how just as a book has its, and you'll have talked with Paul about a chapter having its beginning, middle and end, and the book having its beginning, and music and paintings, in a way, I think are coming clearer and clearer to me, are the same. It's all part of the same process. I could go on a bit about that, but I'll stop at the moment, and I'll pass on to David too.
Thank you, David Wynn.
Thank you.
Can you hear me okay? Make sure my microphone's not too loud. I'm a soft talker, so I have to turn it up. David Harmony from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Boy, I'm taking on something kind of crazy. I'm going to try to offer, through my book, a very different worldview. I'm indigenous to North America, what we call Turtle Island. And I'd like to offer that worldview to the reader. My avatar, the person I'm trying to reach, is likely very much exhausted trying to keep pace with this hyper competitive online global reality. They're probably quite dismayed, not sure what to believe in anymore, as are many of us. And so I'm just going to try to offer our purview, which is one of, we tend to call it circular, organic, trust only what you sense directly kind of living. And I personally think that will help my readers. And I'm coming from a place that's very sincere and innocent. My writing task is going to be very complex because if you think about it, I'm challenging linear thinking with circular thinking.
You
And
got
most-
fictional character, don't you, David? Sorry.
Yeah, I started with nonfiction. I've got, at least I think I'm done with the nonfiction portion. I'm sure after I write the second part of the book, my editor may have a different opinion about how I started, but
It is a fictional character, actually. Yeah, it is a fictional character. Yeah.
I
You
started
don't-
off with nonfiction. Basically, the first 7 chapters, part 1, are basically saying, here's everything I'm going to try to show you and help you feel. The last 2/3 of my book will be fiction. And I'm going to try to help the reader feel and prove to themselves the things I'm suggesting and offering. And the challenge will be, I'm going to try to do it in a multi-sensory kind of way. I'm going to say, go listen to this kind of song. Go find your song at this point in time. Go out and explore nature in the following ways and prove to yourself that what we suggest is another way of experiencing life, you know? So it's meant to be very immersive. And if it takes the reader several passes through to read it several times, or if it takes them a year to read it, so be it. So, and you can imagine the kind of sweat that I'm putting my editor through trying to write something like that.
But the first draft we had of your, was it first chapter? Was
The
quite
first sentence is, I don't know who I am, and I'm damn frustrated about that.
Yeah. Grand. It did put Dean, the audiobook, our audiobook producer, into quite a thinking mood.
It starts off pretty abstract.
Yeah.
And where I think a lot of people have gone awry in the past writing spiritual kinds of things is they stay abstract, they stay conceptual. And so what I'm doing is I'm briefly trying to hit you with the concept, and then I'm going to actually take you through 12 to 20 different storyline characters. I'm going to show you how they mix things up and get into problems with one another. And I'm going to have you try to identify which one of those characters are you most closely to. And then I'm going to show you different ways to kind of in your own real life, go play with life differently. That's all. That's a simple task.
Perfect.
So I'm excited to get it done. I need a serious kick in the butt, and I'm very grateful for this call.
Great. Who's next? It's Ife, isn't it?
Hi everyone, glad to be here. I'm just assistant and I'm helping him with sessions about a story, and it's been really inspiring, and interacting with Paul has been like the push we needed to get going. So yeah, it's been good.
Yes. So Joost is part of the co-author project we have now. I think it's around 10 to 11 co-authors. He joined first, but then he dropped out for other reasons. How can I explain this? When he was born, he had his muscles didn't respond. He had no movement in his muscles, completely couldn't move. So, but I don't know what they call that condition, but it's always been on a wheelchair bound and with constant care. But the fella kind of, I set up many businesses. He's been around the world. He's taken drugs. He tried every drug that has been, booze and sex and everything. And he's helping other people with disabled needs to really travel freely. So his company is called Border Cross Academy now. So that's his story. Ife is helping. We're going back and forth together, try to edit it. And what he does is, how does he do it? Does he do it through via? I thought
He
it
does
was going to be.
it via,
He talks to you, or
he
how?
talks,
He
he
does
talks,
it?
he
Because he
talks.
uses a lot of
Even
text.
operating his phone, sending emails, he does everything.
Yeah,
talking.
it's speech to text.
Yeah.
He's got a fine sense of. He's Dutch anyway. So, and that's his story. He's written poetry. It's published in Dutch, and he's writing his story as well, separate to this. So it's quite a story. Great, thank you. Okay, here's what I'd like us to discuss today and see, come up with solutions and ideas. As we work together in each session, is what happens is the book gets improved, not because of what I say or what. It's that revising, that interaction, of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, that produces much better work. But so the magic happens in that revising process, editing process. But the more we went back and forth, and the more we engaged other people, started to talk, to ask other people's opinions, jumping on group calls as well, the more I saw that it improved we improved each other's work immensely. 2 minds are better than 1, 3 are better than 2, and imagine 10 or 11 or 12 or 15. So what I found was that it saved time, it saved effort, it made it easier for everyone involved. I've already been doing a co-author book project, which is around 10 or 14 of us every 2 or 3 weeks, and started another group called Regular Call with readers, with authors from the UK and Australasia. Because of the time difference, you couldn't, many authors in Americas, particularly North America, couldn't join, and almost 40% of the authors publishing mastery are based on the other side of the Atlantic. So I wanted us to get together and discuss how we can put together group calls on a regularly, best times and best days, and also the structure. So what I found works well, and Aoife and Joseph can tell us more because they have been in the other calls, is let the authors, each author, decide what theme or topic we're going to discuss next. It comes mostly down to concerns and challenges we face during publishing journey, from writing, editing to putting it together. So if we do that, so one for each recurring call, one author decides the theme, the topic we want to discuss, and we all jump on that call, as many as we can, and start to exchange feedback. Then it's a great way of improving one's work, but also exchanging ideas. It all comes down to the feedback. We're doing that with, if we remember David Elston, David number 1, the group call with Jacques is a New Zealand based author, and a couple of authors based in London. Bear with me. Oh, Francois is joining us. So they've joined us, and they got a good idea as to what it is like. So, and what happens is sometimes it's good to keep it regular every week. I think it's very good. And so long as we have 2 people, we'll be fine. There will be times I might not be able to make it because I've got editing sessions. But so long as there are 2 people there and they can run it easily, we put all the links on Publishing Mastery, then it's great. So in this way, we have a group call, regular group call, for that accommodates for North America, and it makes it easier even for people based in the UK or Central Europe, in Europe, because if we do it after 1 or 2 o'clock UK, then, or 3, then it would be easier for people based in California, and both from the West Coast and the East Coast. There were a couple of authors who wanted to join today, but somehow the timing didn't work out. So that's what I'd like us to discuss today. And any ideas will be fantastic. How we can run it, when we can do the next group call, and more to the point, what concerns and challenges are most pressing for us to tackle, to decide. So it's called one call at a time. With James, Jacques, we had a session today at 9 o'clock UK, Joseph, you joined us, didn't you? Yeah, you joined us today. So we're not going to have one next week because one of the two of them are not available. So it's going to be, they're not around, they're on holiday. We're going to do it in 2 weeks. So we can do those things. Another thing we could do is we could do it on Saturday, we could do it on Sunday. We can vary it so long as we keep it regular basis, we'll be fine. It's the fact that there's going to be group call there, even if it is 2 people, me and another person, not 2 of you, because I might not be, would be worth the effort. And we tackle specific parts of the publishing process. So please, any ideas, anything you can suggest would be fantastic. Times, days. It's going to free me time to do 2 things. One, to bring in more new authors and readers so we can get more feedback, we can get more reviews, we can sell it too. And 2, I'll polish, improve even more the editing process, get the whole publishing process on an online course, up putting it all together so you're going to have access to it all the time. So it's about growing it and growing it in a way that your job, your work needs, your work gets improved. And with some of the authors, we're already in the 2nd book anyway, so we plan long term, and that's what's going to make it happen. I hope I was able to explain it to you, the main reason behind this call today.
Clear to me. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Maybe lead with an admission and then ask a question. I am very new to fiction and I haven't read much. So, I'm crazy, right? I'm crazy to try to write fiction if I hardly ever read it. I suspect that combining that reality with the kind of topics I'm trying to write about, then I'm going to have to Frankenstein my work together. By that, I mean, I'm going to be inspired in any given moment to go write a scene or 3, but those scenes may not actually come together 1, 2, 3. They may be 2 scenes back to back and another scene I use way later in the book. Obviously, it would be nice to get feedback as I go, but I'm asking a question. Do we have to actually work in a logical sequence? Chapter 2?
No, we don't. No, we don't. No.
Okay.
And actually, that's a good point. Oh, wait, as soon as we finish this, then you'll go next. And then soon we have Francois, who's going to, we'll introduce Francois as well. So I've been experimenting this for a long time. No, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't. The publishing, the editing process, putting the book together, there are concerns and challenges that come out of the blue. And sometimes it could be a character, it could be a setting, it could be part of a chapter. Actually, it could be a paragraph. And yeah, absolutely not. It's best to approach it, as you said, something that you come across during the process, we tackle it. And it'll be highly likely that other authors, at one point or another, are going to face that one. So they've got the answer. One of the things to do with this approach is it's natural. Let the book has a natural pace, not logical often. It becomes logical later on, has a natural pace. So we tackle whatever natural concerns and challenges you face. So I hope that experience, it doesn't work that way. Chapter 1, chapter 2 might become chapter 7 later on, or chapter 3 might become chapter 5 later on. So no, it's and I hope that answered the question. It's the best way to approach it. We're trying it with the calls and group calls, and also the other group call that covers New Zealand and Europe.
And just to close out that thought and hopefully inspire the others on the call, I briefly attempted to attend the UK calls, but when they moved to 4 a.m., that was crazy.
No, it's too late. And it's too late.
But what I just want to offer one quick affirmation. Paul gets it, man. He's got our back. I witnessed something really cool in those talks. Somebody's writing a fantasy book, and there was a gargantuan battle scene with like 12 plus characters.
Oh yeah.
As I was reading that, I was feeling anxiety as the writer of something like that. How do I hold this together in the reader's mind? And what I learned, just briefly, I learned some techniques for ways to introduce and layer in characters in a scene that's getting bigger and bigger and smaller and smaller. I'm excited about this, that what we're going to learn from each other is what I'm trying to say. So
Thank you. The best thing to do is, if you write fiction, you give feedback on non-fiction, because it puts logic into your story. If you but there's no difference between fiction and non-fiction anyway. So this is what we're trying to do. But if you write fiction, then you give feedback and go non-fiction, because what it does is so fiction. If you are a fiction writer, fiction story, you need to go into that non-fiction because you have logic, and the other way around. And as David will David will tell us later on, David number 1, how he's writing fiction, but he's been to locations where the story takes place in person to make it as real as possible. The whole idea of writing fiction on fiction is to make both as real, as realistic, as believable as possible. Oida, you next. Go for it.
And you asked several very important questions. You asked about the meeting time, what's convenient for everyone, depending on what time zone. You asked about a theme and what would be useful for, I guess, each call. I don't know how many people are part of different writing groups. I'm a part of 2 consistently, and both are in the UK. And what I like about those groups is getting feedback in real time. Sometimes, though, it causes more anxiety. You know, as David was saying, you know, when he was listening to this huge battle scene and how gargantuan it was, sometimes it causes anxiety to get real-time feedback, because now you start questioning your writing style and you start questioning a lot of things. However, I do feel that it's important to get feedback, and then how you apply the feedback is how you apply the feedback. So I don't know if that's what you had in mind for this group, for us to potentially share.
Yes, and also what we're talking about, we're not talking about only a writers group call for the writing process, not at all. The writing process, writing the book is 15% of the process, 10 to 15%. But then it's the editing process, then it's the packaging process, and it's the marketing promotion. So all these things, as the book comes together, are going to pose certain concerns and challenges, and also a lot of questions that go with it, because what we did. So we do it in a way that we apply the principles of publishing the book, writing, editing, and packaging the same throughout, but we individualize for each book, make it individual for each book, and that's what I want us to do with these calls. So that's why, it's real questions, real concerns. Yeah, today, for example, what we did was we focused on a character, a scene, a character and the scene she's going through, Sally, a little girl, and whether it was believable or not. And at the other times we talk about location, whether it fits with the action or what's taking place in that part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it sounds like the use of this particular call will be about everything else but the writing.
Okay. The writing is editing becomes an extension of writing. It is writing, but you write you start to polish from the point of view, see it from the point of view of the reader. So you start to gradually become a marketeer. You've got to see it. So you bridge the gap as an editor between writer and reader. So what you do is you expand and contract as you want the reader to expand and contract, or to contract and expand. So the writing process is important. If we need to focus on certain important parts of the writing process, but we will, because there are always principles and fundamentals and rules that apply when it comes to writing. Nothing happens out of the blue. No writing happens. You need structure. And then we get that structure together, and then you start to write. And so hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I do have a quick follow-up, and what I'll do is, if it's okay with you, Poland,
Mhm.
I started watching the Covenant of Water podcast. Oprah is interviewing the author,
Mhm.
Dr. Abraham, and I found it to be extremely useful.
Right.
And he talks about his process in the podcast, and he even has, you know, a whiteboard where he's kind of sketching everything
Mm.
out. So
Mm.
if it's okay with you, perhaps I can drop the link in the chat.
Well,
so-
absolutely. No, no. Yeah, that's the whole idea, because when we go back and forth, when we find resources that not one person is able to find. Yeah, it's really it's amazing. And some may work, some may not work, some may be useful, some may not be useful. It doesn't matter, because the way you write and edit is unique to you. The way David writes and edit is unique to David. But more to the point, we want to make them, to individualize them for that particular story. So that story has your soul and it rings you. Otherwise, there's no point in trying to shape the story according to a certain, to
I have a funny brief admission.
go
My
on.
very first submission to Paul was laughable. And it was because I was coming at it from a rhyming, poetic writer
yeah.
mentality. And he's
Yeah.
like, he basically said in his own very kind way, he said, that was good writing, but I don't know what the hell you said. So try again, right? And so I had a level set right up front. You got to work backwards from the person actually reading it. What are you trying to get them to feel? And then my final point, and I love this about him. He's New Zealander, Englishman, and he's telling me to use simple English. I just love that.
Yeah, well, it's not an easy topic.
Like what, 4 or 5 languages in the US? Yeah.
And no, it's good. I like going through your draft because you put me through my paces. They did. I think we lost connection, did we? Yeah. And
Yeah, he
can you
froze.
see me? Can you hear me now? I think we lost connections for a second, for a bit. Okay, that's
Okay. You might want to repeat the last 3 sentences.
yeah. I liked going through your draft, particularly the first version. It put me through my paces because I needed it. I needed to be there. Yeah, that's what it did. I needed to be there. I couldn't. I had to, and that was great. No, so before we carry on, we've got Francois. Thank you, Francois, for joining.
Hello, Pauline. Hello, everyone. And
please
I'm
give
sorry
it
for my
a
late arrival. I
No,
cannot come
you're
earlier.
welcome. Thank you. Go for a brief introduction of yourself and the book you're writing, and then we'll carry on.
Okay. So, hello, everyone. I see that we are in good numbers. So I'm Belgium, based in Luxembourg, and I'm currently editing a book I started writing almost 2 years ago by now, and it's between a transformative and a practical guide for women who travel, who go through substantial changes in their life, in their profession. And it starts in 7 steps, where you start in life, your roots, where you are heading to, I mean, your professional and life mission, and all in between, you start traveling and everything changes in your life. You become a new person, a different person. You question a lot of things, your identity. And now I still have some part of chapters to write, but most of my time is now devoting to the editing. And Pauline and I meet about once a month, and I send him my part of a chapter, a full chapter, and we discuss about it. And it teaches me, transmits a lot of his expertise, of his knowledge about efficient writing, but also, well, giving a real in-depth in my writing and making very interesting comparisons with painting, with music, with sculpture, which really inspire me to think the writing and the organization of my chapters in a different way. And when you start writing it, there is time lapse. And when you come back and when you have to edit bit by bit, you need to remember what you wrote because sometimes it was a few months before. And you need to have a big picture of a chapter and then see part by part, or you combine everything, or everything makes sense. Sometimes, as he said, chapter 2 will become part of chapter 1.
Yeah.
And so, and this makes the process a bit complicated. Especially, I struggle a bit when I had to think about my own roots, because it's quite emotional part of my own life. And well, that's what I wanted to share with you. And what I do in life. You'd like me to briefly introduce myself? That's what you asked me, Paul?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm married. I've got 3 children from 18 to 26 years old. We have been traveling mostly in Africa, in North and West Africa, in Egypt, Morocco, and Nigeria twice. And I currently guide women to find their true selves living abroad, find their place, thrive, build confidence around them, and develop themselves, find their true selves.
Are you still thinking of relocating to Canada?
Yes, we are still
You're going to do it.
considering.
You're going to
Hopefully, yes, we'd like to,
country.
but it's not.
Amazing.
Yes,
Amazing. Yeah.
but no longer as expatriates, probably as immigrants, which is a completely different process.
Okay.
Immigrating to that country. Yes, it's still in our plans.
Perfect.
But
Perfect.
thank you.
No,
I'm
no,
happy to be
thank-
here.
Thanks for joining. And it's really, I don't think there's the book takes the reader from beginning, middle, and end, from beginning to the end. And it's not a matter of fiction or fiction. If there's a divide, we should erase it altogether. And which is why feedback is so important. So how can we arrange regular calls for the Americas, so other authors from the UK, other parts that can make it, they can join us to do what David, what you said, David number 2, to deal with any part of the publishing process that concerns at that time. What days would be better? And actually, we're talking about fiction, non-fiction. David Elston, could you explain a bit, please, how you went about going to the places the action in your story takes place, the real places in the UK, and how important, how useful was that exercise, for example? Another way of approaching your question, David, about fiction, non-fiction.
Yeah, well, I suppose I'll just take one bit. So the story, I won't go into the story at all, but there's someone at the moment, there's someone on the run. He's escaped from prison and he's on the run, and he's having to he's obviously having to try and avoid being caught. He thinks he knows where he can find someone who will help him. And how does he get there? And I looked, and really he's getting from it just so happens he's getting from Newcastle to somewhere in the Lake District. And I tried to work out how he would get from one place to the other in the most possible way where he'd be most unlikely to get caught. How would he sort of hide? And he's got various ways to hide himself. But I was struggling a bit because I got maps, and I got maps from the 1960s to look at how the roads were, which helped quite a bit. But then, so I thought I'd worked it out. But then, because I was going to go over to the Lake District for another reason, I thought I'll stay on 2 more days and I'll try and work out, I'll go in the car and follow the routes he would, and then I'll see how far he could walk from here to there and so on. And also I need to check the place where he's going to meet someone. And I actually ended up changing it quite a bit from the maps and how I thought he would get there once I got on the ground and realized that actually the route I had thought he might take down some country lanes, that he wouldn't do that. He would go a different way. And so I planned that out, and I did a bit of the walk he would do and worked out how long would that take me to do that bit, and then try to work out the rest of it. And I found that really helpful, because I could then, when I was writing the chapters, I could picture quite a bit of how it would be, even though it's obviously set a long time ago, but the basic tracks over the fells would be broadly the same. The little church where he meets someone would be broadly the same. So it was a really, really useful exercise in getting more realism into the story
Yeah.
as I thought it. Yeah. So that was the main thing.
It's fascinating because, and the whole idea behind getting together is trying to receive and give feedback that will make the book play like a movie in your reader's head. It doesn't matter what type of story it is, what they say, whether you write fictional story or not. In fact, we should swap things. A fiction story should read and feel and imagine, your reader should imagine like it's happening now out there, really, as real. But a non-fiction story, which is still a story, should sound like, feel like, play like. It's stuff made of legends, and that's when you go to reader, because you get together two most important things when it comes to reading experience: entertainment and education, as they blend together and they become. So these are great books that have a chance to stand the test of time, where they merge both fiction and non-fiction elements. I don't think there's no difference. There should be. Yes. So
Truth is stranger than fiction.
yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And yeah, so David, number one, David Elston. I did speak to James and Joseph as well, and Jacques today. So we might organize one for Sunday, if that's okay with you. If you let me know what Sunday, then maybe go for 9 o'clock on Sunday. That will work for you anyway. We'll talk about that another time. Yeah. So yes. So
can I just mention one other thing, Paul?
Go for it.
That I found very interesting was, as I explained to you, there was a whole section I had in this story where this individual was going to hide for a while on an island, and I knew the island, and it just became too much of a problem. But I was struggling. I was planning out how that bit of the story would go, and then I remembered there's a Scottish writer called Val McDermid. She writes crime stories, and I met her on a train. I sat opposite her because the train was quite crowded, and I knew who she was, so I started chatting to her. This is just before I began writing the book, and she was very interested. She was very chatty, and she said that she always remembered about her third or fourth book. She wrote a chapter, say chapter 5, and it was actually the best chapter in the book. She put the most into the characters. She'd got this wonderful scene in a restaurant. She said she was really very proud of it. Sent it to the publisher, who knew her well. And the publisher said, yeah, the book's great. I think we're going to change this, that, and this. And he said, I want to touch on chapter 5. And she said, oh, yes, please. And he said, I think it's brilliant. It's got such characters in it. And this whole scene is very good. But you know, and I know, it has no place in the novel. And she said as soon as he said it, she knew that was right. It had to go.
Yeah, so that goes to show how invested you are as a writer, as an author, into the story, how emotionally attached to it. And sometimes it's very hard to remove things, be it a phrase, a word, a chapter, paragraph. It's very easy to put it back in, but it's very hard to remove it. So, and that's what the editing process does. But Linda has joined us, and let's see if she could hear. Linda, Anyway, yeah. She is Linda. Hello. So welcome. So just thanks for joining. If you would
You're
like,
welcome.
if you would like to give a brief introduction and say something about your book as well, and then if you want,
Yeah.
you'll be-
All right. So if you give me 30 seconds, I'm going to feed my son and then
go and feed your son and come back. Yeah, whenever you, yeah, that's the
just a second. Like
Yeah,
you
that's
can
okay.
watch
Yeah,
while I do it. You just
absolutely.
need some applesauce.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
we are residing in Germany right now.
So I'll give some background about you and I at work. So Linda is from Germany, but she lives and works in Switzerland. And she's a very prolific writer. You managed to write, was it last week?
Yeah,
1,700 words in less than 60 minutes.
that was an hour, but it was 1.4K in less than 60 minutes,
Yeah, that was quite
which is
solid.
mind blowing.
Yeah, so I'll leave it. I'll pass it on to you. And Linda wants to write both fiction and fiction. And I keep telling Linda there's no difference, but off you go. You know.
Yeah, so as I said, I'm in holidays right now, so sorry for joining so late. I told Paul already if something more fun comes up, I might not be joining, and I was out with my son. I completely forgot about the call, but here we are. As Paul has mentioned, I'm born and raised in Germany. I live in Switzerland, and I have been a ghostwriter for quite a while, so I have been writing books. It has always been bugging me that I can't use my own voice or put my name below it. I mean, at the time it was nice to cash the checks, but yeah, so I'm a life coach and I thrive in personal development and spirituality. It's my passion, basically. It's my whole life. And so naturally my book is about what I teach and what I work with my clients together. It's about deconditioning, getting rid of old paradigms and belief systems, and how to be yourself, basically. And my son wants to say hi.
Well, hello.
Like, hello. Hello.
Hello.
What's your name? What's your name? Yeah, can't talk. Mouth is full.
Yeah. So what's the
Yeah.
difference between ghostwriting and writing your own book?
Yeah, we had that conversation, and ghostwriting was, I got this like gratification for it, like the instant gratification, because I knew as soon as I submit the manuscript, I'm going to get paid. And I also had a deadline, so someone was waiting for it. And I think those two things were very motivating for me at the time to get it done, to get the job done. It was just a job for me. But I also realized that when I had 6 weeks, I would finish the book within the last 2 weeks. And if I had 10 weeks, I would finish it within the last 2 weeks. So I was always good under pressure. And so with my own book, it's like I was pushing it. I was pushing it in front of me, like I was procrastinating a lot. I was talking to Paul, and I think if I wouldn't have had Paul, someone who keeps me accountable and who I have to report something to, I would probably have been stopping again in the middle of the book. I felt uninspired. It felt really blah and flat what I was writing. And I talked to Paul, and he kept on motivating me and saying it's normal, like chill and do something else. It's good. It's okay. It's fine. And that was like, it was 6 months actually, Paul. It was 6 months that I haven't been writing. And so at one point I just gave myself a deadline, my vacation week, where I committed myself to have a writing retreat and just finish this book already.
It's been building up. Yeah, it's been building up.
yeah, it's been building up. It was crazy because the weekend before I suddenly felt the urge to write. I had a lot to say, actually. I think those 6 months were necessary because what I had to say right now, it has been building up in the past 6 months. So it was just right to wait. But I set myself a deadline. Nobody is paying me yet, but I hope as soon as the book is out, it's gonna be in a lot of hands because
Yeah.
now I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with the content. Yeah.
Joseph went through the same thing as you. I think, how long was it? Was it 2 months or 3 months, Joseph?
It was 2 months.
Yeah,
actually.
2 months. So that's normal. But particularly our last editing session, Linda gave me a brilliant idea, our interaction. It's sometimes you've got to approach it like you ghostwriting your own book. And that when you approach it that way, it removes a bit of the emotion out of this. It's think yourself as the ghostwriter of your own book. And you might do the trick. It's just that, yeah, I can. And yeah, so thank you, Linda. So, okay.
Can I just add something
Absolutely.
to that,
Go
about the
for it.
ghostwriting thing? When I was ghostwriting, I didn't pay a lot of attention to what I was writing in the first draft because I always knew, nein, nicht drücken, because I always knew that I will have an editing run. So I feel like writing my own book, if I wouldn't have had Paul again, I would have had such big expectations, on making it good and perfect in the first place. But you don't have to. It's just so important to get something down on the page and then, let the editing do the rest. And you kept on repeating that to me as well.
Well, it was you had conditioned yourself as a ghostwriter to deliver, to be very logical. You had a specific time frame and a word count. That this makes things very, very specific. So you do it again and again and again, then it becomes almost mechanical. It's still that cathartic process there, but it makes it so structured. Writing your own book is not structured, can't be structured. It's a living and breathing thing. It goes through the ups and downs. You go through your day, through your week, through your month. So it's important to go through those to let the book, the writing. Wait, are we talking about the writing process? The writing process is important to let it out naturally. Sometimes there's a lot of build-up. You think you can't not writing, but it's not true. It's a build-up. It's brewing, and then it comes out. So what you were dealing with, it was that very structured approach. You had to do it. It doesn't work this way, particularly with your own book, because it's your experiences, how you feel. It's your subconscious as well. It's very important to let the subconscious free, to really free reign to do it. And then we have the structure and we go back to it, which is the same for fiction we were talking about the other day. Yeah, you want to write fiction.
Definitely. But I must say that for my book, I also worked with an outline. I had a rough outline, not as structured as for ghostwriting gigs, because they were very, they were non-fiction books about, I don't know, psychology or whatever. And you had like a very rigid outline. But I did an outline for my book roughly, and also I had a word count in mind. And I think if you have that, if you have an outline, like more or less the chapters, because if you have a headline, right, for a chapter you want to write, you just have the headline, or you have an idea for a chapter, just write down the headline and write the chapter later. That's what I did now. I had like 3 or 4 headlines jotted down months ago, and now I wrote the chapters. And they were brilliant. I mean, I feel good with them.
Yeah, that's okay. But that's fine. It plants the idea and then gradually it starts to. The thing about ghostwriting with books is you sign a non-disclosure agreement. But the book, the copyright, you might pass the copyright to the person who paid you. But the book is yours, because what copyright protects is not the idea, is the execution of the idea. So the execution of the idea is the ghostwriter, you. So you really are aside the fact that you sign in a non-disclosure agreement. So sometimes it works, I've discovered, to give yourself a pen name when you write your own book, right? And the difference, say, I'm ghostwriting it for that, for that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a brilliant approach. So thank you. Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. So how do we organize this? What would suit you? What would suit you when it comes to times and days? And maybe it's better to take it one call at a time, one day at one, next week or the following week. So we specify one topic, and then we work towards that one. And I've discovered the best approach is one author decides the next topic for the next group call, and we work towards that one, and we share a piece of draft we want to work on, and so any suggestions are most welcome.
From me now or from everyone? Because
everyone, you don't throw everyone.
Okay, yeah, because my connection is a little bit, broken. It's raining now, so.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'm gonna go silent and let the others talk.
It's okay. So
I think it's very good getting feedback from others, Paul. I mean, I know you've discussed that a lot and how valuable it is, because I got feedback from 8 different people, and there were themes coming through which really helped me a lot, I thought. And then there were a few sort of odd comments that I thought, well, that's fine, but I don't think that's going to make me change what I'm doing. But where there were themes, I did.
You're right. The more we go back and forth with them on the draft, the more we get invested visually, emotionally, psychologically. We're not the best people to judge. And it's important for us to get it so invested. Otherwise, we won't really keep that unique way, or the way you write. And the more the book comes together, and the more the editing process comes to that editing part of the editing process, we're talking about the content, the more important becomes to get feedback, honest and genuine feedback. And it doesn't matter. Sometimes it might feel harsh. It doesn't matter. At this stage, before we hit publish, anything is up for change. We can improve it. If we can improve it, let's do it. Because once we hit publish, this is it. It goes out of our hands. And hence why getting this, arranging these calls, it's a superb way of doing it. So
I just had a quick thought. When it comes to because with the group this size, it might be a tad not difficult, but a tad problematic to deal individual issues, especially given over time. So what I could suggest is we could follow the beginning, middle, and end. So what we could do is essentially we take whatever draft is in front of us and we go through it from top to bottom. And the main objective will be to see, does this particular draft have a beginning, middle, and end? And then if it breaks at any point, then we pick that point up and say, okay, well, this particular part either doesn't flow well with the draft, or it could be reworked to flow well with the draft. And at the end of the day, you also want to keep in mind what the draft's main goal is. Like, what do you want anybody who picks up this particular thing to take away from it? And that's part of one of the things that Paul and I had discussed when we first started with my editing process, because I had issues trying to figure out what specific thing I want the reader to take from a particular chapter. And it's kind of funny looking back at it now, but Paul and I have actually reworked the table of contents for my book about 3 or 4 times now, because either a chapter has too many ideas and needs to be broken off, or it is not really going to flow into the general idea of the book and needs to be dated for now. So I think it's a good idea if we go through that process, at least for the first few drafts. So if it gets to a point where it starts to flow it naturally.
Yeah.
And once we get there, then we can take the next step.
It's, and actually, Sorry, yeah, go ahead. Yenmin, okay, yeah.
Sorry, Paul. I'm gonna have to go in a
Okay.
few
No, so absolutely, thank you. No, thanks for
Alright.
joining.
No worries. I'll check the follow-up afterwards, and then have a lovely weekend, everybody. Love to meet you all. All
Yeah,
right.
take care, enjoy.
Before you go, Yenmin,
Yeah.
before you go, is that the Chateau de Chillon behind you?
Oh, that one.
Yes.
That is in Switzerland. I went there many years ago.
On Lake Geneva.
Yes, that's
Yes.
right.
I
Yeah.
thought so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went there many years ago. It's lovely.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Shut my eyes. All right. Great. Happy week, everybody. Cheers.
You too, thank you, thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend,
You
Yamin.
too,
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
But Joseph, that makes sense. And what you'll find is if let's say one topic of one group call is going to be beginning, middle, and end structure of a chapter, by tackling a couple of chapters or even smaller parts and giving feedback, it makes it easier when you go back to work on your draft, or anyone for that matter, to assess your draft better, because it's an interesting way how giving feedback to other people, to other authors' works, it finds its way, it fits through into your assessing yours as well. So that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so because I'm keeping an eye on the workshop time as well. Okay, so why not let's make it simple. When would you like to do the next call? What would you like to tackle in the next call? And let's say who would want to be the person who is going to run it. When I say run it, that's when we need to do it. We need to let authors ask to really take it one at a time. It won't be a problem raising a call link, so long as we agree for the time and date. We can put it onto a poll if we wanted to. Once we finish this call, you can put suggestions on Publishing Mastery onto that post about group calls about Americas. So and then we deal with one at a time. I found it works better if we have a slot consistently on a day over time, because some people might join, some people might not. So but sooner or later, everyone will be able to join one or the other group. So yeah, I'm all yours. That's all.
So your point is to organize different meetings according to different time zones.
Yeah, so it's mostly, this one is going to be mostly for Americas, North America, and also Europe, because if we arrange them after 2 p.m. for UK, 3 p.m. for you, for you, then it should give us both a continents, authors in continents to join. But it's important for the authors based in North America to have good call with them. So I'm not to have to wake up at the crack of dawn anyway. Which David number 2 doesn't mind, but not earlier than 5 or 6 o'clock. So did that answer your question, Francois?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
Thank you,
so,
Pauline.
yeah.
Yes, it does.
Any suggestions will be most welcome.
Yeah, I think weekends seem a lot better for quite a few of us here, and especially it's not going to interrupt anybody's regular work schedule. So I think if this particular time works for, well, this group here, we could easily just schedule this as a regular session from now on. Unless and then if subsequently anyone has any scheduling conflicts or things that come up unexpectedly, then the recording is there, can be watched later. And then if there's a need to adjust the time later on, then we can easily do that too.
And
so I think if everybody's amendable, we can just keep this time.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So are we talking then possibly, bear with me. Are we talking about next weekend or the following weekend to give people some time? So when are we talking about?
I would say 2 weeks, because I think every week is like a little tight. I actually even thought once a month,
Yeah,
but 2 weeks is good as well, to stay accountable, to check in with each other. And I also think, because that time now worked well, Saturday afternoon for me it was 5 p.m. Just to stick with it and see how it goes, because we know that a few can, and if there is another time needed, we can figure that out in the group.
fair enough. So let's go for 2 weeks then. For example, David Harmony said for 2 weeks, either 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. Ouida says, which is
I like the every other week pace.
yeah,
I am
let's do it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Let's do it. So okay, so what I'll do then is I'll raise Zoom calls for every fortnight at 4 in UK. And what I'd like them to do is then I'd like you, any one of you, to suggest a particular topic we're going to handle next time. And what will happen is, depending on that topic, I'll prepare a very little presentation, just a few principles we need to about that, and then we go and work on particular parts of the draft or exchange feedback. So I think that would work well. Let's see how it goes with every 2 weeks.
Yes,
If we need
this
to
is a
make
good
it
idea.
every week, then we can make it every week. Depends, but at least no one from North America is going to be excluded because of the time differences. So we already have one every week, which is that's the small group. This one would do it.
When is your other call, Paul, for the East?
Oh, that's 9 a.m. UK, so it doesn't clash with me. The moment I put these slots every fortnight, then let's say I'll block it out and we'll be there anyway. So sometimes if I'm not in, I might have a editing session or something that's in this, and then so long as there's two of you, you'll be fine. You can run go and exchange feedback and do, and we'll try to record it. See how it goes anyway.
I do have to drop. I apologize. I'll check the recording. Just a quick comment from watching the other calls. I think you tell me if this makes sense. I think at any point in time we pick a topic, I think we all benefit from the topic, but we may be using that new knowledge towards what we're about to write. In other words, we're not ready to share something in that regard. For example, I need help with format and flow and feel in terms of conversations that I'm going to write about. Because again, I don't write fiction. I'm a highly technical writer, right? So I know I'm going to need help there. I may not have something to submit to the group to critique, but if we're going to have somebody else go through the critiquing process, maybe that's the wrong word. They're going to get some feedback. I'm going to learn by witnessing indirectly, and I'm going to write better as a result. Whereas the next time around, maybe I've already got something written that fits that second topic, and then I'm on deck where everybody else can benefit from watching me get at bat.
I think that works really well because it doesn't have to be your part. By the time you go back and forth with that interaction, and you start to get the idea, and then you have a proof of concept to use with your draft. Absolutely, why not? I mean, if you want us to, we can make this the next topic if you want. Just drop it, and when we finish, what I'll do, I'll take all the comments you've made and I'll copy and paste them on that post on Publishing Mastery, so for everyone to have it too.
Good deal. Nice to meet everybody. I look forward to working with you.
Mr. Harmony.
Bye-bye, David.
Take care.
I also like the idea of potentially doing a buddy system, Paul, because I think that it would be great in between sessions that perhaps we have an accountability partner or someone, that we're at different points in the timeline in the writing, editing, publishing process. And I think that would be a good way to, another way to kind of help us.
Thank you. Now, you said something that it's absolutely fantastic. If you want to become absolutely masterful writers and editors, the top 2% in the world, all of them, 1.5%, you do that by taking on another author, writer, particularly someone who was just starting their journey, because most of you really have been going through this. And when you take someone else's work, it's about exchanging feedbacks, almost mentoring another, having that responsibility, but having that emotional detachment to someone else's work works wonders. And you go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and you see, okay, and it finds itself into your work in a way that it's amazing. That's what I've seen. And if the editing process, the principles I've put together, try to see have any value, that's because of that revising coding, that again working with different authors. And I've learned more from them than they learned from me. And it's the same for you. If you will use that, actually, you'll be amazed. That's what's going to, because there's more responsibility for that, and you want to, having been in an author's shoes, particularly first time with someone who starts from the beginning, makes it so easy for you to feel what they feel and be your instructor. So yeah, absolutely, and that would be fantastic. And that's another reason why, if I can't make any of the calls, so long as it's two of you, go for it, because you're in charge, and that's how we should run it. It's not that I'm one person. I'm one reader. An editor, have this for me. An editor, no matter who they are, is one reader, just a reader. It's one personal opinion. And yeah, the more, the better.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, why not?
Could it be that a point of discussion is to send part of a chapter to the people of the group?
Yeah.
And ask them to read it ahead, and so they can share their feedback with not a cold reading, but having thought about it before the call.
Yes, and the idea is every time we have a call, we prepare for a call. For example, it's for every next one, which is going to be in 2 weeks. We'll post a very simple post, the call, for example, 14th of July, 16th, 20th of July, whenever it is. And we're going to they're going to have a topic. Anyone who wants to have feedback on their draft, they can share the draft, upload the draft there, not the whole chapter, possibly part of the chapter. So for other people, it gives other people a chance to read it. And then we'll jump on the call, depending on the numbers, then we can go through it. We'll make it structured in a way that it gives us time for you to read part of it and also exchange feedback. We exchange feedback and so with the others. So did that answer your question? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes. And
sometimes, often, it's not, a chapter might be quite long, but a part of a chapter, a defined chapter, will be enough to go through, because the principles we use there can be used with ease for the rest of the chapter and the book as well. And also, it's quite, sometimes the writing process tastes you like nothing else, really creates emotions like, so it's good to share those things as well, because different people have different solutions as far as sitting down and writing, and the same with the editing process. So sharing those, uploading them, even a small part, is what.
And as you say, they have the emotional distance.
Yeah. And the more feedback we get, the better. So that's what creates really the different angles, different ways of seeing it. It's fascinating how, because you become quite invested in it. And yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
So are we saying
that
our next meeting is 2 Saturdays from now at 4 p.m. GMT?
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'm going to maximum by the end of it, before the end of the weekend, I'm going to set up a Zoom call. So at least we have the Zoom calls on Publishing Master. You're going to see those there, and you're going to get an email as well, automatic email. And then I'd like to put forward any suggestions what the topic you want us to discuss next time, and then I'll put that one as well, and we work towards that one. And we share anything we want, any drafts we want to share, we share it before the call. So if whoever wants to read it, they can go and read it and prepare feedback. But then we jump on the call, and we carry on. So I'd say let's keep it for an hour, and yeah, and for now, and if we need the extra time, then what I'll do is I'll try to have some extra time.
And what is the deadline to share? Because I think it's important for us to say no less than a week before.
Well,
you don't want to do it the day before.
you can. Well, sometimes you might want to share something, but it's not. You're not sure what to share, and if it is one day before, that's okay. That's okay. So share as and when you can. So this is no. We already have the time frame for the next call, which is in 2 weeks today. So that should be enough. And sometimes if you're not able to share anything, it doesn't matter, because by jumping on the call, sharing feedback, giving feedback to others' drafts, it might give answers to many of the questions you might have about that particular part of yours. So when you go back, you can work on it. So it's a matter of doing whatever you can, your best.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we said for 2 weeks today at 4 o'clock. I'll sort out the Zoom call link for next week, and I'll follow that time, and I'll have it running to do it every 2 weeks. But we do specify what we're going to cover in the next call at the end of each call. So it makes it easy, because it gives everyone a chance to say, decide the topic that it's important for them. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I'm sorry I won't be able
Off
to
you
join
go,
next call. I'll be away.
That's okay. There will be more. There
For
will be more.
holidays.
Don't worry.
Yes.
Enjoy your holiday.
Yes. Yes, I'll be
Okay.
on holiday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Then, unless there are any other suggestions or comments or feedback to share, so I say let's wrap it up and prepare for the call in 2 weeks. It's good. I think 2 weeks, fortnight, is doable, sensible.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think 2 weeks is good, but I won't be able to make the next one, Paul, but
Okay.
but I'll make them on a
No, that's okay. That's
yeah.
and I'll talk to you about. Hopefully, you can make the other one.
Yeah.
So I will sort it out. Yeah. So at least we have a choice anyway. You have a choice.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Well,
All right.
with that said, I thank you all for joining. It's quite good. It's quite a good turnout. There were another 3 or 4 people who wanted to come up with something happen. There will. And let's work towards the next session in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Pauline,
Alright.
for organizing this meeting. Thank you,
It's an
everyone.
absolute delight to see you all. And and I'll see you for editing sessions anyway. We have together already editing sessions, so we'll specify things there, confirm about these group calls when we jump on editing sessions together.
All right, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Nice to meet you. Have
Nice
a nice
to meet you.
Thanks,
all.
Eve. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Yeah, that's okay. Bye. Bye, Linda. Bye, Yvette.